One of my favorite bands of all time just released their 11th album. This is Dr. Dog by Dr. Dog. The Philadelphia-bred band was slandered as another Beatles impersonator when they came up in the early aughts. But I think that comparison is mainly drawn because of how consistently incredible the songwriting's been between Scott McMicken and Toby Lehman. For me, hands down, one of the strongest rock songwriting dual forces since Sir Paul and John themselves. I think of others like Andy Partridge and Colin Moulding from XTC. They're of that caliber. And a Dr. Dog album experience involves this delightful pendulum swing between Scott's just very melodic Baroque pop, his innocent vocal tone, and Toby's more straightforward, a little more sultry, and made for the live stage sound. And these two styles are all tied together by a consistent presence of these huge vocal harmony stacks and wordy, playful lyricism. And throughout their 20-plus year career, they've always seemed blissfully disconnected from the musical trends of the time, the musical zeitgeist, content to stick to their idiosyncratic blend of psychedelia and soul and lo-fi and bedroom pop and folk and Americana, really a sound that can only be summarized as indie rock. Dr. Dog are also seemingly happy to be underdogs. Obscurity, like I said, disconnectedness is kind of baked into their ethos as a band. But they've remained steadfast, pumping out album after album of absolute gems like the rough and ready Easy Beat or the trio of 10 out of 10s in We All Belong, Fate, and Shame Shame. I think that golden period for the band is just impossible to match. I haven't quite loved their newer material on that same level, but I can throw on any Dr. Dog album and enjoy it front to back. With the band announcing their last tour ever in 2021, this large cloud, very ominous, impending doom kind of cloud rolled over the Dr. Dog fan base. Could this mean breakup? But 6 years after Critical Equation, they come back, and it's been the longest gap between any Dr. Dog album, I guess, since Birth to their first album. We get the self-titled, which with its abstract cover art, its very mellow yellow feel, gives off a distinctly retrospective and contemplative mood, but still with all the fun, spontaneous, light-hearted, life-loving energy of their entire discography. The album opens with Authority, which is a typical Scott lyrical masterclass, filled with mixed metaphors and endearing colloquialisms like "Believe You Me." I just get the warm fuzzies with all these wonderfully ambiguous and at the same time meaning-soaked lines that Scott comes up with. I'm thumbing my nose on the rose of the thorn of authority. It's just ripe for a very subjective, personalized interpretation. Toby gets in on the action on Lost Ones, the second song, and it's definitely one of my favorite tracks. With that old-timey piano intro and that familiar shuffle that kind of reminds me of the song Survive from Abandoned Mansion. Old-timiness is really something the band's known for, some pre-rock and roll sounds, but also a lot of 60s love, of course. I love that moment in the chorus where the bass line just stays steady, but the chords around it are shifting. It's just beautiful. Scott's infatuation with early rock and roll and dub music shows up on the song Fat Dog, which really has that Studio One or Stax Records sort of vibe. The string arrangement on this thing is divine. It really fills out the sound. What a Night'll Do has another tremendous string arrangement, and it has that old-timey vibe as well with this lilting 6/8 that's just so classy, so lovely. Reverby piano and these dry, jazzy drums. You got that sleepy guitar arpeggiation. I love the sentiment as well. It's just classic. It's just straight from the old crooners. I've lost that feeling that I felt from Before With You. Well, let's see what a night'll do. Scott's done some super romantic cuts on the last few albums, and I don't know, just something about his innocent tone really sells this kind of song when it could easily be total cheese. Scott and really the whole band are really in their slow jam feels on this album. A song like Still Can't Believe. It's another heavy, sluggish, but lovely little track. Handyman from Toby, kind of similar, you know, these big reverby tones, this huge bassy drone over the whole thing. You got some textural vocal harmonies, and then just like a shaker and some light acoustic strumming. Even drummer Eric Slick gets in on the action, just fresh off his great solo album, very danceable, New Age Rage. Tell Your Friends is his first Dr. Dog writing credit, or at least solo writing credit, and it's very different from New Age Rage. You know, it kind of starts off with this almost like corporate jingle kind of sound, very sweet, very pleasant. It gives me some, you know, Robin Pecknold with just the vocal tone and the folk form of the song. You know, it's very Fleet Foxes in the way you can just hear the room hiss. It's a great melody and just the most straightforwardly sentimental and nostalgic lyric in just a unapologetic way. I think there was a shift with this band right around like 2013's B Room, where they really leaned into a less is more approach. Not that their productions aren't extremely considered and very layered at times, but not quite to the degree of their older stuff. I feel like, especially structurally, you know, in the last handful of albums, there are some tracks where maybe there's a B section, maybe there's not one at all. Like Authority or Still Can't Believe on this album, they're just one chord progression repeating through the entire song, and they're strong chord progressions, but I think, especially as a fan of a lot of prog music and just more structurally progressive music in general, I'm hungry for like one more intriguing chord change or section change. And those are a couple of Scott songs, but this goes for Toby as well. I think like a song like Lonesome from 2012, it seems like ever since that, he's really become adept at writing these very singable, very sing-along type made for the stage tracks. A song like Nelly is the perfect example of this. You know, it's a live staple, fan favorite. It's a little simple, a little repetitive for me, definitely not one of my favorites. Talk is Cheap from this album follows in that sing-along mold, and I do see the appeal, but I don't know, I just prefer a little bit more harmonic complexity, a little more hyperactivity of their early stuff. But other than that very subjective, personalized critique, this is another Dr. Dog album, which is to say, it's solid. I like the mellow mood and atmosphere of the album a lot. I think a lot of the tracks have grown on me a lot since the first listen, songs like Fat Dog or Fine White Lies. It's in the bottom half, I think, of my Dr. Dog rank, probably like a 7.5 out of 10. Definitely not where I'd start if you're new to the band. But this is a real gift for us fans, and I'm just so thankful for it. So, Dr. Dog, here's to you. Many more years to come. I hope many more albums to come. And even if, you know, there's solo projects here and there, we're all very happy and pleased to have this music. Let me know what you thought of this album of Dr. Dog in general. If you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you so much for watching. But don't